Hate comments. Every creator of a decent size will encounter them eventually. They come in all shapes and sizes and for different reasons, but there's quite often an underlying motive that strings them all together. For at least the past year, I've wanted to do a project where I make artwork out of different creators' hate comments. There were a range of ideas for this, creating something that represents love, so it would become a message of love emerging from hate. Alternatively, something that just focused on the cool factor of artwork, showing how you can turn negativity into a tool for creation if you're resourceful enough. But as you can see here, what I've ended up doing is creating a symbolic diorama depicting a creator sitting on a throne of hate comments and the commenter chained up by their issues and insecurities to the right. So to give you some background information before we dive into this in more detail, the scenes have been created in Blender using the Eevee rendering engine, and the file is available to download on my Patreon under the Starving Artist Prevention tier. This is an animated scene, so let's run through it and I'll explain the full process as we go. Obviously, when people send hate comments, they're usually doing it to cause some kind of emotional harm, usually because they just don't like the person or the content they're producing. But one thing people who leave hate comments probably don't realize is that they might actually be helping the creator to achieve their goals at a faster pace. Many content distribution algorithms measure the engagement of the audience through various metrics such as likes, views, and comments. A hate comment, regardless of its content or intention to harm, is still just another piece of evidence to show the algorithm that people want to engage with the creator's content. So lots of hate comments indicates a high level of engagement, which can increase the chances of the content being shared and recommended elsewhere on the platform. Of course, this depends on the website, the algorithms employed, and the method for content delivery. In this regard, unbeknownst to them, hate commenters can serve a beneficial purpose, just maybe not in the way they were expecting. This is why the creator sits on a throne of hate comments, passing judgment from a beneficial position. Regular people with balanced personalities typically don't send hate comments. Even if they are hypercritical of the creator's content, they know how to phrase it without hyperbole, curse words, insult, or unnecessary personal attacks, intended to grab attention and drive a point home. Perhaps regular people is an unfair term to use here, as people who send a lot of hate comments are still regular people experiencing very human emotions, but it's the source behind these emotions combined with a set of unique life experiences that I think makes someone feel okay with representing themselves through hate over the internet. There are lots of reasons why people send hate comments, and look, I'm not a psychologist, teaching psychology now lol ridiculous, but I do speak to a lot of creators and audience members, and I've asked them to send me examples of the kinds of hate comments they've received over time. From my experience, I've seen people do it for the following reasons. Pure hatred. That's the obvious one. Attacking because the person annoys them to such a degree that they feel like they need to do something about it. Insecurities. Overcompensating for inadequacy by putting up a strong defensive front for fear of someone discovering their weaknesses or sensitivities underneath. This kind of goes hand in hand with paranoia. Overconfidence, having the feeling of superiority for having ownership over knowledge that just because they have stumbled on it, they think it means they're the only one that can possess it. Therefore, they're the only one who has the right to speak about it. So they get annoyed when a creator talks about a subject that they think they have ownership of. As you can imagine, in the tutorial communities, this happens quite a lot. Frustration through envy, festering an external locus of control, meaning they believe only external factors decide what they have in life. Then being upset at the universe for not giving them what they think they deserve, then seeing someone else being successful while they are not, and letting that develop into spite that overpowers their rational fault. And of course that spite comes out in the form of mean comments. Enjoyment. Being deprived of attention, learning early on that being obnoxious is the fastest way to get people's attention, so why bother trying to put intelligent and nuanced effort into social interactions? Holding the floor of an engagement gives a satisfying level of control that they're lacking elsewhere in life. For people deprived of the rewards earned through regular rapport, basic attention by itself becomes its own reward. And just comedic value, typically from people that have trouble picking up on social cues and/or people who generally don't respond as sensitively to retaliation after being pushed too far, like offensive banter. But that's just my unprofessional opinion. Few things in life are ever really black and white, and there's probably as many reasons as there are people that send hate comments. When an argument starts, no one wants to back down just to save face. People will change their minds just for the sake of being disagreeable, because under no circumstances could they possibly admit to being wrong. A term I've sometimes used when speaking to other people is the non-conformist conformist. The commenter here is chained up by all of these issues. It holds them back, constricts them, and causes a deep suffering that may not be immediately visible on the surface. But when leaving hate comments, intention is plain to see. It appears like shackles around the body. But regardless of what people may say to you online, they are still human beings, and unless they have significant mental difficulties, which is very possible given the sheer number of people you can reach on the internet, they should still have some sense of empathy and be capable of at least a small amount of affection in the right contexts. Maybe not to you, but to someone or something else in their life. People hide this capability away behind an anonymous online persona, removing the obvious humanity from interactions. This is represented here by the sphere, hiding behind the faceless body. Now, I don't want this whole piece to feel like a one-sided complaint against negative commenters. Let's shift our attention to the creator. Despite generally being in the better position in the exchange of views, creators are not infallible, and without keeping check of the emotional responses to comments, or rather the lack of emotional response, they may end up doing some damage to themselves or their professional life. Superiority complexes. Hate comments can exacerbate the growth of a superiority complex in a creator who becomes conditioned to ignoring people as a defensive reaction. Imagine you're a creator who receives 1,000 critical comments every day. You could not possibly take on board all that information, and certainly not let it change the direction of your life. So naturally, you'd have to become more accustomed to ignoring people. Knowing who to ignore and who to pay attention to means that you'll need to make quick judgments on people's ideas based on limited information, the message they've written, its tone, and the ideas presented, essentially deciding whether or not to assign a sense of value to the ideas of an online persona. People are lazy. Dismissing message after message gets you used to ignoring people, so you risk forgetting that there's an actual person behind the message. It's easy to get comfortable brushing other people's ideas away when you detect even the slightest tone of criticism. Beware the cracks of narcissism that exist in all of us. Don't pretend they don't exist. Identify that they're a real part of you and prevent them from turning into valleys over time. But is ignoring people a bad thing? It very much depends. I follow a mantra of don't take criticism from anyone you wouldn't take advice from. This does mean that most people get filtered out, but there are always exceptions. If you're a creator treading into new territory, it often is a good idea to ignore people. People generally give advice based on their personal preferences and what they want to see, rather than what they think is best for you. You yourself will likely also have a direction and a plan based on information that they are not aware of, so why should they get to decide how you should live your life? At the end of the day, your time is limited and valuable to you. No, wasting people's time with videos like this is why people don't get shit done, you're overthinking it. But there is still that lingering danger in becoming desensitized to critical tones and messages after dealing with a large number of hate comments. It's the creator's own responsibility to keep that in check. But again, at the end of the day, creators are just human, susceptible to being mean, forthright, and critical in their tone, just as much as a commenter. But the main difference is, one person brings something new into the world, and the other tries to diminish it. Would you rather be a creator or a destroyer? Remember, the blend file can be picked up on the third tier of the Patreon. And now, for your entertainment, I will close this off with a poem I'm calling 50 Shades of Hate. Early to bed, early to rise, work your ass off and advertise. That's the only one that rhymes. Sorry, I don't see anything phenomenal here, just programmers using a very powerful tool trying to make some money. That looks terrible, but keep practicing, you'll get better at this. Thank you very much for wasting people's time and not explaining how to save the image. YouTube is so full of trash these days. Jesus, speech therapy is your friend. Okay, but where the f did you apply the texture? You dumb piece of shit. How about slowing the f down, man? It's a f***ing mirrored shape, you stupid f***ing donkey. Why the f*** is everything light mode? Okay, virgin. This looks really shitty. I hope I didn't hurt your weirdo feelings, don't cry my baby wavy. I watch Blender videos so I don't have to buy content, which is why it annoys me when people make videos devoted to something that looks great but that most of us can't afford. I don't know, Americans seem very naive about how the rest of us live. They forget that YouTube is a worldwide platform. Okay, thanks for watching everyone, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.